Okay, we are back for round two, everybody. We hope you're excited. I know I am, Ben. Are you excited?
I love Legacy.
I
I'm always ready for Legacy.
It's a great day. It's sunny outside, right here in Newmarket, Ontario.
Right
Canada.
after a snowstorm.
In what? In it's spring technically.
Yeah, the third day of spring. Yeah, it's the third day of
Wild.
spring.
The amount of snow that we got here, and we are excited for our next matchup here. Ben, what are these two decks that we have?
So this is going to be the old guard versus the new guard. So Grixis Delver has always been known ever since it was first released in Innistrad and Legacy was a thing. It's always been like the best tempo style deck. And Scam is the new guard, which is taking advantage of grief. And if you're familiar with the modern meta, it's are already dead or evil. I think it's evil undead. I don't remember what the two cards are because I'm not a modern connoisseur. But it basically wants to evoke grief for free, take a card out of their hand, and then bring it back for as little mana as possible. And the way Legacy players do that is they don't really use that instant speed type because it's very vulnerable to Force of Will, but they rely on reanimation, reanimation cards, which is reanimate. Depending on the deck, if it's a reanimator style deck, they have multiple ways to reanimate things, but reanimate is usually the typical card to go to.
Yeah, and it looks like, both players, we have Underground Sea, Pass, right, into Swamp Thoughtseas, and a Brainstorm Response, a classic little Legacy play. Going to hide some of your favorite cards or best cards maybe in this matchup?
Yeah, so this is like just a showing of how powerful Brainstorm can be. I previously said that Thoughtseize is strong, but Brainstorm is very high contender of being best card.
What is this card at kind of the top of the screen there for Chris?
So the top card is actually a newer card, and it is Molten Collapse. So I do believe that it is seeing play in Pioneer. To what extent, I am not sure. But it is an extremely powerful removal spell. Very versatile. We'll throw it up on screen.
So Molten Collapse reads, choose one. If you descend this turn, you may choose both instead. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Destroy target non-creature, non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less. And in a Legacy format where a lot of creatures or non-lands are CMC 1 or less, that's pretty good, I have to say.
Yeah, and how easy it is to actually descend. So fetch lands, cracking your wastelands. Putting permanents into your graveyard is very easy in this format.
And a Dragon Rage Channeler to follow up after this.
Yeah, so I think actually a lot of people say like Force of Wills are very strong, Brainstorm's very strong. I actually like Murktides are also very strong, but I think Dragon's Rage Channeler is probably the most powerful card in the deck, just because it basically glues all of Delver's style decks together, and it's because you can really churn through your deck, see so many cards from this one permanent, and it really helps Delver dig for those answers when they really, really need it.
Absolutely. And even kind of this, I think we've seen over the last couple of years the effect of these newer cards that Magic has been printing, right? We see, Orcus Bowmaster, we're going to probably see a lot of those, especially in those higher seeded tables. And then even our Murktide region, right? And DRC, our Dragon Rage Channeler feeds so well into that, right?
Yeah.
It looks like, our Edict is going to be dazed right away.
Yeah, and look, we're only on the third turn of the game, and Chris has 5 cards in his graveyard ready to go for a Murktide with double blue. Like, this proves the power of Dragon's Rage Channeler.
Yeah, it feels like Brandon's been, he's had some interaction, and he's really just trying to get rid of things. Another removal spell, Fatal Push into it, right? But it feels like he's, still a little bit behind.
Yeah, so we've categorized, or we've labeled Brandon's deck as Scam, but I just want to make sure that people know at home it is mono black. So we are seeing a ton of removal spells and interaction from Brandon, and I think that's really going to help him in the long run. He needs to be able to, I think what's going to be key here is that he needs to save correct removal for the correct threats. So those fatal pushes are really good against here's a Hardcast Grief.
So Hardcast Grief, so Dark Ritual into Grief. That's pretty aggressive, it feels like it. So it looks like he's going to bolt. When it comes in, the ability is on the stack, going to kill it in response, and then it looks like Brandon's going to have a choice of our card we were looking at earlier, Molten Collapse, or Brazen Borer. So Molten Collapse, probably a pretty good choice. Brazen Borer is good, but it is an X1, which in this format isn't the best, I have to say. But it's still a very good card, as it can bounce literally almost everything back to hand.
Yes. I mean, that is a plus and a downside, whereas like if you are bouncing a threat, they still will be able to use that threat later.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay, just into the Brazen Borer as well, which I find a little bit interesting, I have to say. I think we know that it's going to be bounced right back to hand. Okay, so is that Brandon's only card in hand too?
No, I think there's one card underneath the Shieldred in his hand.
Oh wow, that's a pretty good top deck, I'm pretty sure.
That is a very good top deck, yes.
And I'm pretty sure it has Delirium, so it is a 3/3 flyer that has to attack. There's no way he doesn't have Delirium with all that.
Yeah, I think with the Dragon Rage channels in his graveyard, he definitely most likely has Delirium. I honestly think it might not be terrible. It puts a body out there that he can race with. He kind of gets life if he's trying to draw cards where that Dragon's Rage Channeler is attacking. So it's effectively only dealing 1 damage per turn. And it also threatens Chris and puts pressure on him not like planning to use Ponders, Brainstorms, and his cantrips a little bit more strategically.
Oh, okay. He went down to, and then, okay, I see what he did there. A little bit of a way to do it. Okay, just going to bash in here.
Yeah, and then I think that was a really good play on Brandon's part because, ooh, so here's a proxy.
Okay, so this is a proxy that, we talked about this earlier, and for those who are just tuning in right now, for our 1K here that we have at Enter the Battlefield, 1K plus, I should say. We have 46 players.
Yes.
So our prize pot is larger than 1K. You are allowed proxies, and there's not a limit on that piece there. So it looks like getting stifled.
So it is a 4-mana creature with an Enter the Battlefield ability, most likely.
My guess is Grief?
Oh, could be a Grief.
We'll try to get a ruling or find out from one of our helpers here of what this proxy is for us. Can you find out what the proxy is on the table? My guess is Grief.
Okay, so while we're finding that out, yeah, so Grixis Delver doesn't really have a good solution to a Shieldred. Like, the Brazen Borer, or the Petty Theft of Brazen Borer is probably one of the best ways, and then having to counterspell it.
Okay, we were correct in our assumption. So we saw one of them. Maybe we should just get him to swap it out with the one in this graveyard.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So, and I find it kind of interesting too, right? Brandon hasn't been attacking Chris's land base with this Wasteland. I know he is just trying to jam threats right now, and he is winning this race pretty quickly. I'm wondering if he's going to try to pop this Wasteland eventually. So deals. So on the stack, wow, double Lightning Bolt on the Shieldred. I think that is probably the best bet.
Yeah, and then Chris also, from the Surveil triggers, kept it on top. So we'll see if it's a Murktide or not.
Yeah, and it makes sense to stifle that Grief ability too, right? Because he had he had Stifle Lightning Bolt in hand. So he wants to be able to have an opportunity to kill the Shieldred at some point. So actually really heads up play by Chris here.
Yeah, and then even if he doesn't have an action spell coming off of the top, he does have that Brazen Borer on an adventure at the moment. So that is another 3 points of damage that he has access to.
Yeah, and Chris could win this race here.
Okay, so here's a Stalactite Stalker from Brandon. So this is an award for Brandon for his patience. So he wasn't cracking that Wasteland, and this is a way for Stalactite Stalker to put a counter on itself. So cast a Reanimate and bring this Shieldred back.
Wow. Okay, he is kind of going all in for this too. He's going to take some life, right?
Yes, but he will be able to recover it if he survives. If there's not a Lightning Bolt on the top of Chris's deck.
How many has he played? He's played 3 Lightning Bolts, is it? So there's only 1 left in his deck.
Yeah. Chris going down to 6 from the Shieldred trigger.
And he did keep it on top, and he did attack his land base too. So
he did, yes.
This Stalker here, there is a lot of menace on the board here, and menacing play.
Yeah, Scam is a very menacing archetype. What can we say?
Chris is in the tank here. You have 2 mana.
Not black, by the way.
Yes.
Right? He does not have access to his black spells, which is Molten Collapse and Bowmaster.
If I'm Chris, I'm tapping one of my lands and saying red man.
Yes.
And I'm going to say...
That is a
Murktide
Murktide Regent. So this does block Shieldred pretty decently. It will trade with it, though, because I'm pretty sure it does have Death Touch.
Isn't he just dead to the attack of Grief and Stalker? No,
Stalactite
so
Stalker
he
is a
goes to
2/2. Yeah, he'll go to 1.
And then dies on his upkeep.
Yes, he will die unless he trades. So
Yes, unless he
if Brandon
trades.
were, I don't know if you. I think you just hold the Shieldred back.
And swing with both menace.
Yeah, because Chris can't block either of the threats on board, and then he'll just die to Shieldred, like you said.
Yeah. So I think Chris playing to his outs. I think it's exactly what you do. You hope Brandon kind of plays into it as well. You survive at 1 and hopefully have an answer here too.
Yeah,
So-
and Chris is handless, so Brandon should have nothing to worry about. Ooh, he turned with a Shieldred. That might be a backbreaker.
Okay. He's still
Yeah, Chris instantly taking the trade.
he still has 2 menace creatures. Both are. I think he's just reading the Descend piece, see if it triggers.
Yeah.
It all still depends on what the top deck is. There's still the Lightning Bolt is a play here.
Even a bolt doesn't do it because the Dragon's Rechandler is forced to attack.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have that blocker. They also have menace, so he needs to. There's no way for Chris to get 2 removal spells.
He's showing us the camera too to see
Yes.
what it is. I like that.
That's perfect. He
good.
knows
Yeah.
exactly what he's doing.
Okay, so is Lightning Bolt on top on the draw step here? That's a question.
Yes. Can he squeak out the win? It is not. It's a wasteland.
That
Wasteland was on the top.
That was a good play, I have to say.
Oh.
There.
Yes. So
Wow.
that was kind of scary there at the end.
That was. What? Where do you think the turning point of that game kind of went?
I think it was the Shieldred, because so we were kind of going back and forth on like fully tapping out and not using that wasteland. Putting out the Shieldred as early as possible, making Chris use a resource to kind of deal with it, even though it sets Brandon back like a turn. Grixis Delver doesn't really have a good way of dealing with that Shieldred, as I said before. If Chris had a counterspell for that Shieldred, like a Daze or a Force of Will, that's like 3 cards that Chris needs to dedicate to dealing with 1 threat. So it was really good for Brandon to recognize that Shieldred is going to be the turning point here because of just how many cards Delver can
Yeah.
right? So the Brainstorms, it'll drain six
Oh my
life from them,
goodness,
right?
6 life.
Yeah, and
That
then
is good, and you're gaining 6 life too, right? Like the opponent is gaining.
Yeah,
it, right? Oh,
no, the
it's
opponent
on
will be
draw,
losing
it's on
6.
draw.
You're not drawing
Yeah.
3, so you're not gaining life. But just being able to hit Delver in a way where you don't need to have like attack is a pretty good situation to be in.
Yeah, no, that was a good game. I honestly thought Chris was going to be able to come around with it there. and
Yeah,
it
Delver is
just
very
slipped.
good at doing
it
that.
It just slipped out of his hands. It felt like it, right? Like,
Yeah.
So close.
I can't help but feel a little guilty every time we try to put Chris on camera.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Variance is just not on his side. She's very fickle.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so it sounds like, Ben, you've played or had Chris on kind of your streams or videos that you guys record. Is
Yeah.
this a deck that he mainly pilots, or is this something that he's just bringing it to this 1K plus event in Newmarket at Enter the Battlefield?
Yeah,
large tournament?
so recently, like ever since Bowmaster had been printed, it's kind of been the deck that he's been gravitating towards. I haven't had him on too much, and I only see him like now and then. He is quite a very busy guy. But he traditionally used to play Jund.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
In Legacy.
In Legacy.
Ooh,
yes,
a Jund
like
Legacy
classic
player.
Bloodbraid Elf Jund.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's going old school with it.
Yes,
I like it.
yeah, and it was a beautiful deck. All of his decks are usually always fully
I was
foiled.
about to say, he had some nice looking lightning bolts and brainstorms
Oh,
there.
yeah.
I admire that.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, I'm not too my connection with him isn't too personal, so I'm not sure what spurred the change from Jund to Delver.
Yeah.
But
It's a good
it
deck
could
right
just
now.
be a meta call.
Yeah, that's
right?
fair.
Delver's always been strong. It's very
Yes.
well geared towards most decks. Anything Force of Will can stop It just makes it a good deck.
Is Chris even running any true Delvers in this, or is he just running the Dragon's Rage Channeler?
He is playing 4 Delver
Okay, so he is playing
yes.
like 4 true Delvers, because I even remember, I want to say if it was last year, the year before, like Delver almost became like a 1-of, or almost 2-of, or was like rarely seen as a 4-of. So
yeah, so I
the
think
resurgence is kind of coming back a bit.
I think it might have been a little bit longer than a year ago, but it was around the time Ledger Shredder was printed.
Yes.
There is someone in the scene, I can't recall his name, but he identified and wrote a very, very good article on the problems of Delver. And he went into a huge, deep analysis of one of the core problems of Legacy is like whether you have to decide what you want to do with that opening hand.
Yeah.
Right. So we talked about this earlier with the land stuff. It also applies to cards that utilize Brainstorm Ponder, Preordains, cards like that. Delver especially because it is that weird tempo style deck where sometimes you want to be really, really aggressive, but sometimes you're also playing the really control role with your Dazes, your Wastelands, and your Force of Wills. You really have to decide which avenue you want to do, and because your tempo, you're trying to dictate the pace of the game.
Yeah.
What the player identified is sometimes you just don't draw those hands, right?
you just don't get the cards you want.
Yeah, sometimes you get a mix of both. Sometimes you get all control, and you don't really want to be in all control, right? If your opponent is the slower deck and you want to outpace them and you want to go fast, the cards just don't give it to you sometimes, right?
That's tough, especially in a format that can go so quick or so slow.
So back then, he tried to use the advantage of Dragon's Rage Channeler and Ledger Shredder of being able to see 4 or 5 cards per turn every. It's a huge advantage, as we said.
And it looks like we're getting into game 1, or game 2 here, I should say, right? Yeah. Chris on the play. He's going to lead with a Volcanic Island to a Dragon Rage Channeler, and no days back for this or Force Will. Kind of just a 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, it could be that if Chris does have that days, he could be relying on a second threat, and he just doesn't want to put himself behind.
Yeah. And we saw that just slip out of his hands in game 1 there, but he'll definitely be playing pretty tight here. I feel like it. He's a game behind. He's going to want to try to bring it to game 3. We saw Force of Will in that pile off the Ponder. Nothing else. We'll see what he does with this here.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if Chris has successfully identified what kind of deck Brandon is on, so I'm kind of interested to see what kind of sideboarding he did.
It looks like he might be keeping this. I don't know if he's looking for another land. Wasteland is pretty backbreaking sometimes. I don't even know if Chris is playing any basics. I doubt it with the Grixis.
Yeah, Grixis, when it comes to the tricolor Delver variants, your first cards cut are usually your basic island.
Okay.
I think that's a Dothy Voidwalker from Brandon. I think that's what he just
That would be pretty good. It does get,
Ooh, there's a Wasteland from Brandon.
I'm snapping that off right away. I'm sorry.
Oh, there's a Stellax.
This is good.
So this is a very common play that we see nowadays.
This is fun. A 2/2 menace.
It is a 2/2 menace. And it grows. And it's a removal spell, too.
Yeah.
It can opt as a removal spell.
What a nice little attack. And a goblin, I have to say.
Is it really?
It's a goblin.
You would know. You would know,
in a
right?
Goblin deck. Someone asked about it one time. They're like, would you put this in goblins? Not a chance. There are some maybe iterations that you could put it in a modern, but I don't think it fits the type of decks that you are playing as goblins, unless you're pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So, and just gonna bolt it right away. Respects it. I understand that fully, and plays an Underground Sea too.
Yeah. So I think Chris here is kind of advantaged, although Brandon does have a ton of removal spells. We're seeing Chris fill up his graveyard, maybe trying to prepare or dig himself down into a Murktide region.
Nice quick one too.
Yes. Yeah.
I think, I guess the only things that Brandon really has to deal with the Murktide, right, is our Edict effect, right?
Yeah. So this is what I was referring to at the beginning. Is Brandon needs to identify and kind of pace his removal spells appropriately.
Ooh, a Shieldred on top.
Oh, there's a Shieldred from a Mishra's Bauble.
Good man, Brandon here, helping us all out.
Oh yeah, fantastic.
I played
Good
against
sport.
him in Modern before, but he was playing Burn then.
Yeah.
But I haven't actually ever played Brandon against.
I've actually played against Brandon in Legacy.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, when we started ETB's Legacy scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was playing mono black, but he was playing more of a beatdown version. There's like that 3-mana dinosaur that's a 7/6.
Yeah, that discards a card.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Was he playing Phyrexian Obliterator?
I think he was.
Oh, yes, that's all that matters.
I think he was. Yeah.
What a great card.
Fantastic.
A dummy of a card, but...
Okay, so we're seeing a reanimate on Chris's Dragon's Rage Chandler.
The mono black player.
Yeah, I mean, if mono
has a
black,
DRC.
yes. I mean, this could be very good too because it help if he can keep casting spells. He can see more cards. That helps him play against Chris's way of digging for answers. He does also have. He does have different threats, so Delirium could possibly be online.
Yeah.
Oh, there's
just
just
respects
yeah.
it. Just this 1-to-1,
Yeah, Chris says that's mine. Give it
yeah,
back.
Yeah, give it over here.
Yeah.
I think it's foil too. He wants to make sure all the cards in his graveyard all match. They're all there together. The foilings.
Yeah, it's his shiny thing.
Yeah. My ring.
There's the Murktide
Yeah,
Regent.
there we go. Maybe you wanted that too. I wonder how big this Murktide's going to be. He does have a lot of
Looks like it's
4, so it's going to be
7. I think it's a 7/7. Yeah.
Oof. Does he have the edict though? That's the
Yeah,
question.
that's the big question: is does Brandon have the edicts?
Or was he relying on this DRC to try to find it for him? It looks like he might in the far right of his hand there.
There's a Castle Lock Twain.
That's pretty good. He's tapping for it.
There's
Has it,
yes,
yeah.
there's
No
the
Daze
edict.
is going to save him here.
Yeah.
Are you sideboarding out Daze as Chris here?
I don't think so. You see Brandon have wastelands, like he's going down on his own lands. It's also like Chris was on the play in this instance,
Yeah,
and
so
Days gets
definitely not there.
significantly worse if you're on the draw.
Yes.
So keeping them in, it helps you keep your tempo. There's another reanimate from
He's going
Brandon.
to get...
Yes, because you can't manipulate your graveyard as well as Chris can, and you can't get cards out of your graveyard. Murktide is just going to be a 3/3. If Dragon's Rage Chandler can be a 3/3, then you might as well get the extra looks of cards when you're casting spells.
I think if I'm Brandon and I was way more head on board, in spite, I would be reanimating Murktide. Just to show that I can take that life and have a 3/3 on board.
You have to remember, Will, they are playing for 1K plus.
1K plus.
1K plus.
That is
So
true, that is
he's
true.
got to be making the good plays early on.
Grafdigger's Cage? Okay.
It's a little late from Chris, though. There's 2 reanimates coming already.
Yeah, and it does have Delirium.
It does have Delirium.
Okay, that's actually big here.
Yeah, that's probably why Chris is lightning bolting immediately.
Or no, what is that?
That is a Troll of Khazad-dûm, so he is
These
swamp
cards.
cycling. Yeah.
These cards, Lorien Revealed and our Troll, have been huge for impacts on Legacy.
Yes.
It is unbelievable the effect that Lorien Revealed has had. I
Yeah.
feel like it.
Yeah.
It's, Ben, out of these two, our Troll and Lorien, do you have a preference, or do you think one is a little bit better, or I guess they're depending on your deck that you're playing, right?
It really does depend on the deck. Legacy is a very deck dependent or archetype dependent format. Because you very rarely play them in overlapping decks, right?
This is a Shielder.
Yes, this is a Shieldred.
This is looking hard for Chris here.
It is, yes. He's just not, he doesn't have the disruptive spell. So this might be the problem we were talking about earlier about him having the really aggressive hand and not a lot of interaction or disruption to stop Brandon from taking over the game.
Oh, Surgical Extraction.
Wow. Is he taking a Murktide Regent?
I think so.
He's taking Chris's big threats.
I think
That's backbreaking.
Yeah.
And we see Chris, he does have the Force of Will, but he doesn't have a blue card.
Oh my goodness. And that's one of Chris's best threats as well.
It is the way he finishes the game, and as we saw in the last game, it was his one way of dealing with Shieldred.
Yeah.
Brandon has now stripped that option away from Chris, and I don't know how he can efficiently deal with the Shieldred of the Apocalypse here.
Double Lightning Bolt, but he doesn't have the double red. And he's already used, I think, 2 Lightning Bolts as well earlier in the game for the 1-1 removals.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness me. This is slipping away. He is going to be able to kill the Shieldred on his turn. Oh,
Yeah, he does have that Murktide Regent.
This will be tough.
So I'm wondering... Yeah...
Spazzy, whack job, welcome back. And that is someone's name in the chat, I have to say, that's watching our stream. It's great to have you back. I remember your name from our can laner. Yeah, he's going to kill the Shieldred right away, and it'll be dead. The Shieldred is pretty tough in every format.
Yeah, and now Brandon, I believe, is handless, now has 1 card in hand drawing for his turn.
I respect Chris for playing open information. Oh no, a wasteland.
Ooh.
This.
I actually don't think that's terrible.
It's not.
Like Chris has the lands that he needs. Brandon can take him off of red for a short little while, but because Brandon is now handless, he now gets to activate Castle Lock Thwain to get him that card advantage.
It'll be a bit tricky here for this spot. But yeah, he's going to draw a card, right? He knows he's in the driver's seat here. You can play it a little bit slower. You're just waiting for Chris to do something, and then,
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder what Chris has in his hands. Like the Shieldred is off of the board, but
it's not playing.
yeah,
I think it is
they're
a
not
Doffy.
cantrips.
Oh, for Chris, sorry.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
for Chris, I don't know what's in his hands.
I'm trying to think what he may have. Looking at his list here.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just holding lands, honestly, trying to make it look like he's got something. He's got a Daze, Force of Will, pitching Daze. Make sure that Doffy doesn't stick. That would be almost lights out. It's almost lights
Yeah.
out here already.
It's not looking great for Chris.
No.
And I'm pretty sure Brandon has a Grief in hand. It is a proxy card, so I believe it is Grief.
Brainstorm. I'm going to look for something here. Brandon's F6. We saw him do the hands up movement.
Yeah. It's just sad. I wonder how Chris is feeling losing to his own Dragon's Rage Channeler.
Your own card is killing you.
Yeah. So Chris is going to be able to do what we call a perfect brainstorm here. He gets to take his best cards and then shuffle away his two worst ones with the fetch land.
He needs an answer here for this Dragon Rage Channeler.
Yes, he really, really does.
He's on 3 life, right? After this fetch.
Yeah.
He's dead on board. He has removal in his deck, that is for sure. Okay, tapping it probably for another.
He's digging really hard for an answer to just kind of survive. If he could get a Dragon's Rage Channeler of his own, even a Brazen Borrower, if he can Brazen Borrower, he can Petty Theft the Dragon's Rage Channeler back to his hand, and he gets an additional threat that way.
Oh,
He's fetching again.
oh wow.
Going down to 2, yeah. So this is actually not a bad deal because
2 perfect brainstorms.
yeah, he has 2 perfect brainstorms, but like he's already at 3. Dragon's Rage Channeler is at 3. Grief is a 3. Like he's not really changing the math in any way. So Chris is just trying to dig really deep for a solution here. Is this another? Wow!
another brainstorm?
It is 3 brainstorms in one turn.
My goodness. Okay, he's got to have something here. I think it's only 3 cards too, right? So he's gonna have hopefully. Yeah.
Oh,
wow!
and he does not find it.
That was a game. Say that is a tough for Chris. I think he played to his outs there, and I think it just kind of goes back to what you're originally saying of does the Delver deck have what it need to survive against some of these others? And it didn't seem like it had the right kind of hand or the tempo play for that second game.
Yeah, I think the backbreaking play was when there was no Daze for the first Fatal Push.
Yeah.
He played the Dragon's Rage Channeler, and if there was a Daze there to help protect it, all of the spells that Chris followed up with would have helped the Dragon's Rage Channeler dig even further for what Chris needed. So losing that Dragon's Rage Channeler really early on is probably where the advantage meter would have shifted really heavily into Brandon's favor.
Yeah, wow. That was, great plays from both, Brandon and Chris, and, congrats for Brandon moving on. I think you'll be going 2-0 right now, for just us here, and it seems like, that's end of round 2 for us there. And we have, I think it's 6 rounds, Ben, is it today?
Yes.
And then we'll be cutting to top 8, right?
Yeah, so a lot of people
day.
usually split in the top 8 or the top 6, but I think because players are playing for those league points today, and it is like the last really big event before our spring cutoff, I think they will be playing, so we have tons more Magic for us to go.
I'm excited. I'm excited for the rest of the day. And for those who are just joining in, right, of course, this is our 1K Plus event that we have here at Enter the Battlefield in Newmarket, Ontario, Canada. My name is Will. We have Ben here with us. We just finished up our round 2 match up there, right? And, Ben talked a little bit about league points as Ben here helps kind of at the forefront of our Legacy of the North, I believe it's called. Is that right?
It is Legacy of the North.
Legacy of the North, and players are battling for league points every 3 months. There's a new season, and they kind of take these top players and have a larger tournament. Ben, have you ever gotten a lot of points to be in this tournament?
I actually have. I qualified for each season except for this most recent one, but I always give up my spot.
Okay.
I always give it up because I'm behind this. I like being behind the scenes. I like doing the production side of things, and you know, I know I won't make it very far.
What? Come on.
So
Positive mindset. Positive mindset.
Yeah. My positive mindset is, you know, sharing what we're doing here with the rest of the world.
That's it.
So I give it up, and you know, it's always fun to see more players, and just giving my spot away to the next person in the line is always a good charitable thing.
Yeah, and we have people all throughout kind of Southern Ontario or the GTA, right? We have people from Toronto, right? We're up here in Newmarket, it's kind of the northern part of GTA, and kind of surrounding areas. So we have 46 players here today, right?
Yes.
A great amount of players, so it's fun, and we're seeing some great decks today. I'm hoping for some spice as well, right? Coming into round 3.
Yeah,
but,
actually,
we'll see.
Well, I would probably consider like the depth decks a little bit more spicy. You don't see them too often.
No.
It just so happened that we grabbed them like almost
Double
every
depths.
year. Yeah, that's very. You don't really see that too often.
Yeah. We just had so much depth in the decks that we found today. I think is it.
Yes.
I think that's it. I think
Yeah,
that's what
I want a little bit more shallow gameplay.
That's
where's my
fair.
burn? I want to see burn.
Burn, yeah. I'm hoping maybe some 8 casts. I don't know if there's 8 casts here.
So 8cast has actually fallen off of the grid almost completely. That deck single-handedly loses to Orcish Bowmasters.
That is true. And Chalice the Void too, basically. So
Actually, it can fight around Chalice pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't played 8 casts myself, but
Yeah.
what, 4 Horsemen, someone's asking, Spicy Whack Job, who's into the chat right now, 4 Horsemen? I don't know about that.
I don't know about that. I'm not gonna lie.
What about Goblins? I haven't seen Goblins.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for Goblins, but I'm not playing today.
You could jump out of the seat and just seat yourself, just be like, hey, I want to be.
We should if we have a huge downtime, we'll play Goblins versus Lands, and then I'll lose.
No, I can't. There's very little I can do against a sticker goblin.
That is true. Against the sticker goblin, yeah, I'm playing that one.
You can. When the moment you play that card, you can put your stickers on my cards. I don't care. You're winning that game. That game is over.
It'll be good. I know that we have Jim Monolith here as well, right? Going to be playing some stuff. We have a lot of those who are in the legacy scene, right? A lot of people out here today, and even kind of what Ben was talking about, right? Vying for these points. I don't know if Ben wants to showcase what this trophy is that people are playing for, because it's sitting right in front of us, and I think it's pretty amazing. I kind of almost want to show it each round.
Yeah. So
we get to see this here.
It was made by someone local to you guys, so you guys are really helping us out. So the league players are playing for this Grim Monolith trophy. So each player who wins Royalty of the North matches will get a trophy. They will get a gold-plated ring, and they are playing for what I would probably consider is the most exciting thing, is free entry into legacy events throughout most of Southern Ontario.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. I like that.
Yeah, and also you get the title of Royalty of the North, either King or the Queen of the North.
I know that maybe we need like a little pin, right? So like season.
They have their rings.
Yeah, I guess
they
show their rings, right?
Yeah.
When they're in front of the camera, they can be like, "Look at my rings."
Yeah. Maybe we do, if we go on long enough, maybe do Hall of Fame pins. Or something.
Ooh, that'd be kind of fun too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think what we're gonna maybe do in just a moment here is take a little bit of a break. We'll come back. Maybe with round 3, we'll see kind of how much time is left. We'll maybe talk about some of the other decks if we have more downtime. But right now, we will take a little bit of a break, and we'll be back with more commentary of our amazing 1K event here in Ontario. So, Ben,
1K plus.
1K plus.
1K plus.
1K plus. By round 6, I'll have that down.
Yes.
And we'll go from there. So stay tuned, everybody. Don't go anywhere, and we will be right